everybody who is a legislator must understand the game of authority. Legislators are lawgivers. In fact, when you begin to study the subject of priesthood, you will discover that the highest level of priesthood is the rank of legislation and litigation. In litigation, we fight to defend God's interest by contending with anything that opposes God's interest. Whereas in legislation, we advocate for God's interest by propagating and promulgating policies and laws that gives room for God's interest to find expression. And so every Christian must develop capacity, come to a point where if there's anything against God's interest, he can fight to defend God's interest. And he must be able to also create channels and possibilities for God's interest to find expression. This is the level of maturity in the kingdom that we call sonship. When you become a son, you develop burdens for God's interest. And that's why I said in 1 John 2, as you read from verse 12 further to verse 14, it says, I write unto you, sons, because you are strong. This is no longer a level where you are crying, God, give me food, God, forgive my sins. No, it says you are strong. The word of the Lord abides in you. You have overcome the evil one. That means when there are oppositions against God, you can rise up to fight in God's interest, because you know how to harness divine arsenals and you know how to mobilize them against the oppositions that faces God. That is sonship. That is where legislation and litigation comes in. But unfortunately, there are many Christians who are still children. That is why in our churches today, 90 to 95% depends on pastors, prophets, and apostles to even deal with their personal issues. They don't know what to do. And we enjoy it. So we don't teach men to mature to fight the battles of the spirit. We want them to depend on us because we think we derive value when they are children. And so when a Christian has headache, he's waiting for a miracle service or a deliverance service for that headache to be healed. He doesn't know what to do. When a demon threatens a Christian, he doesn't know how to rise up in the name of Jesus to fight that demon. I am not saying there's anything wrong in providing covering for believers. I organize miracle services because there will always be children in the house of God. But the point I'm making is that we must begin to develop syllables that transit children to mature sons in the kingdom. I became troubled when I looked at the educational system. Most of you are graduates from various universities. It takes an average university 4 to 5 years to make a graduate. You come in as a novice, 5 years later you walk out as an engineer, you walk out as a scientist. For doctors, maybe 6 years. For lawyers, 5 years. And these people who came in as dependents suddenly step out with credentials and functional knowledge to be able to survive. And every 5 years, the university keeps churning out people who can defend their own lives. How come when you come to church, people are in church for 15 years, they still don't know Jesus? They are in church for 15 years, they still can't defend. That means there is something wrong with our syllabus. And so conferences like this are set up to create an advocacy for people to mature in the things of the spirit. That's why the things you hear here may be a bit different from what you hear in the conventional church. Because we are here not just to meet needs, we will meet needs. I kept receiving testimonies up until today of some of the things God did in 2022. We had miracles, tangible miracles. We had testimonies of transformation. We have testimonies of circumstantial turnaround. But our major focus is for mighty men to rise, because legislators must be born. We need people who can go into parliament and defend God's interest. We need people who can go to the media and defend God's interest. We need people who can go to the academia and defend God's interest. And that is why I showed you yesterday the way Satan is working overnight. I gave you 3 cadres of demonic intelligence and demonic operation. Satan is working through policies, innovations, and trends. Anybody who is in the corridor of power, who is not fundamentally submitted to God, is manipulated by Satan. And when you see the policies being churned out from governmental parastatals, from economic corridors, you know that this thing is beyond the people walking. There is a spirit whispering to them. And we took time to look at it. If you look at the innovations today and how they are being used, you know Satan has an agenda. If you look at the trends today, you know Satan has an agenda. But what is happening? Where are those in church who are burdened to stand in positions of power to say no to demonic agenda? Where are those who don't just have bodies but have capacity to say no, and when they say no, their no has impact? This is why we are here tonight. I began by telling you yesterday that every legislator must have weapons, and I outlined 5 weapons of legislators. I said number 1 is wisdom. Anybody who does not have wisdom cannot reign in this life, and if you can't reign, you can't defend God's interest. Wisdom was speaking in Proverbs 8:15. He said, by me kings reign, princes decree justice. He said, nobles and all the rulers of the earth. That means anybody who is reigning as a king, at the foundation of his reality there is a wisdom working. Wisdom has power for enthronement. And so if you will stand in the place of authority to advance God's agenda, you can't lack wisdom. That's why in this kingdom, in James 1:5, he said, if any man lacks wisdom, it's not something he should take for granted. He should ask of God, that giveth liberally and upbraideth not, and it shall be given to him. So you can't afford to lack wisdom in this kingdom. We reign by wisdom. When wisdom begins to work in you, you become indispensable. You study the book of Daniel. In Daniel chapter 5, we saw that the king somehow lost touch with Daniel. It looked as if they didn't want him anymore, until suddenly a hand wrote on the wall, mene mene teke ofasin. All of the wise men couldn't interpret it. They had no choice but to invoke the wise man called Daniel. And you know, this is the excellency of wisdom. You don't have to lobby for position. When you have it, it is clear that if you are not there, things will go wrong. And when Daniel showed up, he came from the cave, and when he came, he didn't even act politely. He said, you, the Lord exalted you, gave you a kingdom that spans from one end of the earth to another. You now think you are wise. You are now worshiping the God of Ai. Only a wise man can talk like that, because you can't touch him. If you touch him, the kingdom is in jeopardy. You worship the God of iron, the God of stone. This is why this hand has come. And this is what the hand means. Mene, mene. They couldn't even read it, because where that hand came from is another civilization superior to the one they had. But a wise man knew how to journey from time to eternity. A wise man knew how to cross the veil of mortality to immortality, and he came with counsels that were rooted in the oracles of God. He said, mene mene teke ofasin. He said, you have been judged, you have been weighed in the balance. Imagine if we have such men in the body of Christ. Presidents will tremble, because when we visit, they will know that there's crisis. You know, it's so sad that in darkness they are able to maintain some of these things. Do you think if a sorcerer walks to the king's palace, they won't take him serious? You are the only one that comes as a pastor, and they think you are coming to beg for money. No herbalist goes there and you intimidate him that he's coming to beg for money. You know, if he came, he brought a message from a spirit. Meanwhile, all those spirits are servants. We worship the ancient of days. We worship the I am that I am. We worship the creator of the ends of the earth. Every other spirit is subordinate to our God, yet our representation is mundane. No wonder I say I've seen an abomination on the face of the earth. He said beggars are riding on horses while princes are trekking. In the days of the fathers, if a prophet walks to a king, the king knows that he's either blessed or he's in trouble, because they come with the verdicts of the spirit, and they had the reputation to always be right, because they function by an authority called wisdom. Our parliament is crying for wise men. Our nations are crying for wise men. Our civilization is crying for wise men who can look at the crisis of society, diagnose it, and give prescriptions that will change things. Christianity is not just about singing in church, it's about raising wise men, sending them into society to shape society until God can be seen in our territories. But it will take the weapon of wisdom for that to happen. Where are the wise men? Egypt was about to crash, and suddenly the butler remembered that there's a wise man in prison. He didn't come out of the prison because they liked him. He came out of the prison because he has a commodity that you can't do without. And when the guy came, does it not shock you that they didn't need to read? He came, he looked at the king, he said, this is the dream that you have had. There will be 7 years of abundance, but be careful. After that 7 years of abundance, there will be 7 years of famine. Now if you will be saved, you have to store 1/5 of everything you produce in the first 7 years, otherwise your nation will crash. And the king looked at him. He said, inasmuch as God has revealed this thing to you, he said, there's no one in your class. He said, therefore take over. According to thy word shall the nation be ruled. We don't beg for position in this kingdom, we rise by wisdom. But we have reduced Christianity to a religious movement. This is why there is a demand for legislators, men that can look into the spirit and tell you the mind of God, the position of God. And if you doubt them, you will see the consequence. Legislators are wise men. I told you the second weapon of legislators is influence. So one way or the other, you must hear them. You know, when I look at what's happening in the world and I compare with what's happening in church, I'm wondering, it takes me back to what Jesus said. He said the children of this world are in their generation wiser than the children of the kingdom. We think influence is carnality. We think influence is ambition. That's because we are myopic. The Bible said if you have what to eat, what to wear, and where to lay your head, it should be enough for you. So when we are talking influence, it's not about personal issue, it's about kingdom advancement. The church needs to have men that can speak to presidents, and policies will be written to favor the church. This is what the sons of the bondwoman are doing every day. They understand the game of influence. So in the Middle East, you go today, both religion and government and governance is one, because they know that you can't advocate governance without the influence of their God. So pick any Middle Eastern nation, you can paint it with the culture of the people. It's rapidly there, because they know they can't separate power from the worship of their God, and they insist on it. If they do it only in their country, that won't be a problem. But when they come to your own country, they force it on you. That's the level of audacity they have. And they know how to collaborate to make sure this agenda permeates different territory. They can use the guise of violence and then claim that the refugees are looking for asylum. What asylum are you looking for? They are not looking for any asylum. It's a strategic system of repopulating territories with those who carry their belief system. And today there are over 17 million of them in the UK alone. And they are not just coming to look for a house. When they come to a territory, they make sure they live together, because they understand how the system works. It's a system, a game of influence. So when you come to a place and you demand for the name of a street to be changed, they do a referendum. And when the people in that street agree, they change it. If they say a mosque should be built, they do a referendum. Meanwhile, before they demanded for it, they already made sure that they are living there in their number, because they know it's a game of influence. So those who have money can buy houses and put 10 people there. They need the number because it's influence. And when you come, before you know what's happening, after 5 years they want to be mayors. And then you are wondering, where did you come? It's not about when I came. What influence do I wield? Because they want to permeate the corridor of power to perpetrate their belief system. But we think influence is about buying car. We think influence is about being popular. But the sons of the bondwoman have a deeper understanding, because they know without influence you can't legislate. Have you seen in any parliament where they made decision without voting? So you need numbers. You need men who have influence in the corridors of power. This is why we fight for this thing, and this is why in these last days we need more apostles in the marketplace than on the altar. You check your nation today. Most of the decisions they took, all you could do was to protest on the street, because you don't have the number where it matters. If you have the number where it matters, you won't need to go to the street. I tell my people, the way influence works is that influence makes up for number. In my country, we have 109 senators. Each state produced 3 senators. That means the number of a state doesn't matter. It's the number of senators that matter. So if you have 3 senators, you have conquered the state. That's the game of influence. You can protest on the street. They will wait. When the tension comes down, they will reenact what they want to do. Have you not seen it? They come down for 3 months, for 4 months, they do the same thing, because they know that if you don't have influence, your tension will come down. But see, when you have men where it matters, when they speak, they say no. They say no, and that no can change things. This is why you need influential people. Legislation requires influence. It's not about personal gain, it's about kingdom advancement. I'm telling you this today because I want to show you what God considers to empower legislators, because these things are entrustments. They are not a gift. There are things in the kingdom that are a gift. There are other things that are entrustments. If you like, pray from now till next year. God can't give you influence over a nation if he has not vetted your heart and proved you worthy. So there are things that are a gift, there are other things that are an entrustment. I want to show you tonight the things that makes immortals to rejoice, the things that makes immortals to be favorably predisposed towards men, so that they can put weapons on their lives. That's my burden tonight. But you need to understand the veracity of the things we talk about here. COVID came, they say church is non-essential, and I asked myself, who were the ones who made those decisions? It dawned on me that although our number is much, but we don't have men of influence. For government of nations to come to the conclusion that church is non-essential, as far as they are concerned, hospital is more important than church. If you like, argue. It takes influence to change it. We didn't have men to say it's not possible. If hospital will be open, church should be open. We did have men, and they can wake up today and tell you that your worship has become a noise. You think you are in Kenya, you think it's impossible. Travel to the Western world and see what has happened. It's a gradual process. A day will come when they can't authorize a church that sees more than 500 people. They say, what are you coming in so much number to do? What are you doing? And there'll be nobody to say no. There'll be nobody to say restore, because we are not raising legislators. We need to raise men that have massive influence in government, in the economic corridor, in the media. There should be individuals that if 3 of them say let's meet at the stadium will be packed. They don't need to spend money on flyers. They are the publicity. So when they talk, their voice becomes the voice of the people. That is what we are talking about. And Satan has so many of such people. Look at your secular world today. When your artists have programs in stadia, people pay for it, yet the stadium is full. You have program, is free. You do publicity, the stadium is not full. It's a game. Because when you have influence, you command the allegiance of men. And when you command the allegiance of men, any agenda you propagate must go forward. This is why it's a weapon of legislators. How many of us here can influence 100 people in a day? That's when you discover that our number counts for nothing. As we are seated here, if we say you can influence 100 people in a day, stand up, you'll be shocked. You won't find 10. How how then do you think we can propagate our agenda? So when they are counting us, they are still counting individuals. But in darkness, they don't count individuals, they count constituencies. Because every individual has rank, and his rank reveals the number of people he has influence over. So they can count some people, they are equal to a city. And that's the plan God has. He said, you are a city set upon a hill. So as far as Jesus is concerned, when 10 of us sit down, it should be 10 cities. So when he's talking to 10 of us, he knows he's talking to 10 cities. If 20 of us sit down, it's 20 cities. If 30 of us sit down, it's 30 cities. Then there are those who are nations. We must become angry with the status quo. Some of you have divine purposes burning in your spirit, and you have pushed it for 5 years, but in 5 years only 100 people have heard it. What you carry, if 1 million people were to hear it, Kenya will be delivered, but there's no influence. And those who have influence don't understand kingdom collaboration. All of us are fighting for our platform. We don't know that there's a corporate agenda that is superior to our individual ambitions. So we need weapons, and one of the weapons we need is the weapon of influence. Number 3, we need authority, because what we are doing here is not just among men. Spirits are involved. You will be naive to think when you talk to men you are dealing only with men. Paul said, though we war in the flesh, we walk in the flesh rather. He said we do not war after the flesh. That we are walking in the physical world does not mean our realities begin and end in the physical. There are more spirits on earth than there are men. 1/3 of the angels fell with Satan. 1/3. And the angels are a myriad of numbers. You can't count them. There are more spirits on this planet than you have men. This is why everyone must have authority. Jesus taught his disciples 3.5 years. They wanted to run out with lecture notes. Stop there. You think you are talking to the heads of people? You are resisting spirits. He said, tarry until you are endued with power from on high. Because when you go out, you will meet Satan. You will meet beasts. You will meet principalities and powers. And you don't need to look for their trouble. They pick the fight even before you are aware. Paul said, we wrestle not against flesh and blood, against principalities and powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, and against spiritual wickedness in heavenly places. You are fighting an organized system in darkness. See, demons are not haphazard in their operation. It's a well-structured system. When you study that scripture in Ephesians 6 from verse 13 to 15, you go look those words up. Then you understand how strategic and systemic Satan is. You are wrestling not against flesh and blood, against principalities. The word principality is the word alke. It means first in rank. It means a governor. So what principalities do is that they come first and harness a territory, survey a territory, and when they are done, then powers come. The word power is the word exousia. These are authorities, and what they do is that the principalities give them information. The people who are here, they love seduction, they love pride, they love ego, they love arrogance, and then they use those statistics to censor the people. Then powers come to create addiction along those lines, to enslave them. When powers are done, then rulers of the darkness of this world come. The word is cosmos kratos. They are magistrates in the spirit. What they do is that what you call an addiction, they make it a law. So when you visit a territory after 10 years, what was an addiction becomes the culture of the people. So people are born into it. It becomes a system of slavery. Some of the things you call your culture today, they were not part of your foundation. It was a generation that started it, but they turned it to a law. So if you come, it becomes a culture. And if it's a culture, children are born into it perpetually, so they are born slaves. Then you have spiritual wickedness in heavenly places. The word is poneria. Those ones, they afflict people. So when Satan is fighting, it's an organized system. And that's what the Bible said you are warring against. Is that a place you want to enter with English? They don't speak English in the spirit realm. You speak spirit and life, or you speak spirit and death. Meanwhile, we brag with lingo, we brag with suit, we brag with comportment, but you are dealing with ancient spirits that only respect power, and many don't have it. That's why Paul said, when I came unto you, it was never about excellency of speech. Forget that I speak well. My focus is not language. He said, I came in the demonstration of the spirit and power. I came because I know there are spirit entities in this matter. He said the kingdom of God is not in words, it's in the demonstration of power. So everybody who is a legislator must understand the game of authority. And I tell people, there is authority that is based on revelation, there is authority that is based on consecration, there is authority that is based on virtue. If you know you are fighting, you will harness all of them. You know there are certain powers God can't give you until you are humble, because if you are proud, you can't wield it. There are certain powers God can't give you until you know who you are in Christ. There are certain powers God can't release to you until you show your commitment through prayer, fasting, and worship. It shows that you are responsible enough to handle it. So when you find legislators, they are sojourners in the spirit realm. Every day they are harnessing resources. Have you seen some of these spy movies, action movies, when people go to war? Even their boots, there's a knife there. On their belt, there's a short knife. They have guns everywhere, because you don't know which position you will be in the battle. There are times when they can pin you to the ground, then you remove something from your boot, because there won't be time to go and carry your gun from your back. That's the level of equipping you require. There are demons, there are principalities, there are rulers, there are spiritual wickedness. You must be guarded with power. With power. Legislators are wielders of power. And see, as you are growing, know what you can handle per time. God began to teach me that early. I can wake up 12 midnight and cast out devils. You tell me you have arthritis, I can rebuke it once, it will go. You have tumor, I can command it to dematerialize. You have a fracture, I can speak to your bones, you will walk. I know the ones I can do. And we are growing. See, spirituality requires precision. It's not trial and error. But for you to have precision, there must be authority. In your secular world, don't you know your ranking? Don't you know your clearance level? Every organization has clearance level. You can't be a cashier in a bank and you go to do what the operation manager is doing. There are clearance levels. That's how the spirit will work. If you become a legislator, you focus in developing your clearance level, and that's authority. It's a weapon in the spirit. If we will take territories, we must become masters of these things. Masters. This conference we are holding here, there are faces, if you put on the flyer, this hall can serve, because of the influence they command. From the first day you have to move to the stadium, just because they are there. There are faces that if you put here, the president will come without being invited, and when the meeting is over, he can sit with him and advise him about this country. Say, I heard this on media, I heard this, do this, do this, do this. He will do it, because they come with so much influence. They wait, we force the president to obey. That's why you need it. Hope you know the people in darkness, they don't joke with these things. You are the one who think everybody walks to the office. Let God open your eyes. You will see that some people came to the office clothed with animal skin, and they are chewing stick that they carried from the grave. That's why when they talk, you can't dare attack them. Does it not? Are you not surprised that people come and say we will not agree, and then somebody stands up, talks, everybody keeps quiet? You become so afraid. It looks as if you talk, you will die. They chewed something before coming. You are the only one who came with suit, and you think it's about English language. You are joking. They carry water, they are drinking. You think it's water. Let God open your eyes. That's why you will know that that's the oil harnessed from a baby, or that's a blood taken from a virgin that they are drinking and talking with you in the office. You are seeing water. You don't know what power is. You are sitting among beasts. You are sitting among devourers, but you think you are talking with men. Some of the people in your offices are not even humans. Because when the devil is out for war, he knows what to do. The Bible said even Satan disguises himself as an angel of light. Some of the men in your office are spirit beings. They brought them out of the water and they entered human form, and they are in that office for 10 years. You think you have a colleague. Wait until he's going home, and then you'll be shocked that he drives into the ocean and you don't know where he came from. Those are the people we deal with on a daily basis. But we think in our naivety that this thing is about, I made a first class in philosophy, I made a first class in sociology, I made a first class in science. All of that is good, but hear me, if you don't have power, you are a pre. The day you stand on their path, you will develop cancer and you will not know where it came from. This is why we must be equipped. We must be equipped with power. So much power that when you step out, they can sense your energy. I'm telling you, oh, power is a language. Even when you don't talk, see, when you come, they can discern that this one has rank. They can see it in the spirit realm. When you shake them, they will see your vibration. They will feel it. They will feel it that you came from a higher energy level. When you talk to them, they will know that you attend meetings with angels. They will know that you come from corridors that are yonder, because they know what the spirit realm looks like. So those who come from there have a badge in the spirit. We can't afford to be naked assuming we are clothed. In the spirit realm is power and glory that clothes you. If all you have is a suit, you are naked in the spirit. The day Satan desires, he will shoot you down. But I prophesy to someone, as you leave this conference, there will be an awakening in your spirit. This is why we cry. Paul said, for this cause we groan, that we might be clothed. The guy was not naked, but he knew that if all he has was a fabric, he was naked. He said, we groan that we might be clothed with our heavenly tabernacle. I don't want to enter the office with a tuxedo alone. I want to enter there covered with light, so that those in darkness, when I come, they will know I came with something. Such is the way of the spirit, and that's the generation that must rise. Jesus told his disciples, the words I speak to you is not Aramaic. You are hearing in Aramaic, but the spirits know that the words I speak, they are spirit and they are life. That's why when I talk, demons flee. They hear something different. I say from tonight, when they hear you, they will hear something different. It's kingdom versus kingdom. We are agents of another dispensation. Paul said, now are we ambassadors of Christ. Ambassadors come with some level of fortification and clearance. As you walk from this meeting, you will carry your ambassadorial powers in the spirit. Hear me. Some of you have been threatened in your workplace. As you return, the one who threatened you will run away. Because you will come with the weight, the glory, and the power of your God. Legislators are carriers of power.